Scary Terry McLaurin has requested a trade from the Washington Commanders. And I want to get to two things. I want to get to Terry and I want to get to Will Hernandez. And when I originally saw this, my first take was, and as Aaron pointed out in the chat, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where it was not someone where I said that he should not be someone that the Cardinals go after. However, he has officially requested a trade from the Washington Commanders. And my first reaction, that being Scary Terry McLaurin, was if you're the Cardinals in a season that is hanging in the balance, and I thought they would have already made a move for Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons, a position they actually need in a pass rusher. I thought to myself, okay, fine. If you are going to go after Terry McLaurin, you have the assets to do so, and now would be the time to do so. As well as in a make-or-break season for Kyler Murray, and in a world where I don't think Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon are going to lose their jobs, but if they want ultimate job security, knowing they did everything they could, you go and get an extra piece to help you win some games this year. However, with all that being said, the Cardinals can absolutely go get Terry McLaurin. They should explore going and getting Terry McLaurin. There's a price to do anything, right? Same with the Jonathan Kuminga stuff that I just talked about. If it costs you a 4th-round pick and he wants $28 million a year and it's not going to conflict with the contracts you're going to have to give out later on, and it wouldn't, go get Terry McLaurin. But in all likelihood, it's probably going to cost you a 2nd-round pick and $33.5 million a year over the next 3 to 4 seasons. Here's why I'm anti-Terry McLaurin. He's obviously a very good player, 1,000 yards nearly every single year. He's like Mike Evans, but no one talks about him like Mike Evans, statistically speaking. Look at his statistics. Dude has a 1,000-yard season every year besides his rookie year, and he was this close to that as well. However, the Cardinals should be out on the Terry McLaurin sweepstakes, and this is the only reason that matters. Had they been able to unlock Marvin Harrison Jr. in year 1 and find out how to make the offense go with Connor, Benson, McBride, Harrison, and Wilson, then I'm all for bringing Terry McLaurin into the fold. However, you just have too many things right now that are question marks. We know the Cardinals have talent offensively. I can agree with you that maybe they could have used a 3rd, maybe 2nd wide receiver, maybe. But I like Michael Wilson, and I think Zay Jones, Xavier Weaver, and Greg Dortch are perfectly fine holding down the spots behind Marvin Harrison Jr., as well as you have Trey McBride there as well. But to ask Drew Petzing, if you went after Terry McLaurin, to say, hey, I know you haven't figured out Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride and James Conner to all work efficiently. Now here's Terry McLaurin. I need you to figure out how to make all of these work now. Although I think most of last season was on Kyler Murray not playing well towards the end, post-bye week, Drew Petzing isn't of no blame. The offense at times was non-creative. It was a non-starter. And when James Conner went out, it was a BB gun offense. It is true that Terry McLaurin makes them a better team right now. It is true that Terry McLaurin makes them a scarier offense. It is true that he would help them get to the playoffs. But it's not exactly what they need right now. And for all those reasons, they should say no. You only get one opportunity to go all in with your assets and bring in a star player to help get you that extra push to get to the Super Bowl. I would rather they do that with the pass rusher. Maybe Micah ends up not signing. That's probably not the case, but maybe he doesn't end up signing. Someone like that. I would rather give up prime draft capital and a massive contract extension to someone that could help the defensive end, especially at the pass rushing spot. Because although I believe in the guys that Jonathan Gannon has brought in, I still think there's a big chance that they lack the blue chip pass rusher. And so when I see Terry McLaurin requested a trade, let's remember this as well. Budda Baker not too long ago requested a trade from the Arizona Cardinals. It's a leverage play. I'd be surprised if the Commanders obliged to it and moved on from him, especially in a year where people are buying Commander stock, but I don't really understand because I don't think they got much better this offseason. They need him as a weapon. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for the Cardinals. You already have way too many moving parts to add Terry McLaurin into that. You can't ask Drew Petzing to say, hey, I know you didn't figure out Connor, McBride, Harrison, and how to make that work smoothly. Here's Terry McLaurin, a true number one wide receiver in the NFL. Figure that out along with the issues you haven't already figured out. It's too much. And honestly, Drew Petzing and Kyler Murray have not earned the right to have Terry McLaurin on their team. They have not showed you, like Aaron said in the chat, that Kyler is a legitimate, consistent Pro Bowl level quarterback from week 1 to week 17 to where you think if you give him that, it takes him to another level. And Drew Petzing hasn't earned the right to have Terry McLaurin into that fold as well, to give him another piece when he already hasn't figured out the weapons that he has on the offensive side of the ball. However, my guy in the chat, King Bry, said McLaurin brings veteran leadership to that receiving core. Cool. If that's a big deal, go sign Keenan Allen. You don't need to go sign Terry McLaurin. Keenan Allen is available. And I advocated for Keenan Allen on the Cardinals. Good route runner, finds the soft spots and zones, sure hands, a safety blanket for Kyler Murray, and it brings veteran leadership. And you don't have to make him the number 2 wide receiver. He could be the 3rd guy. So there's your veteran leadership if you really want that as well. However, there is someone out there that I think the Cardinals should bring back. Will Hernandez has officially became clear, medically speaking, and he can come back and resume all football activities, it seems like with no restrictions. Unless Will Hernandez is only signing with the team that will give him a starting job, which I understand because he's a guard. Guards make like $25 million a year now if you're an elite one. Will Hernandez was very serviceable for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, how much of that was Clayton Adams? Because there's a reason why the Giants let go of Will Hernandez after like 2 seasons. He struggled mightily. Clayton Adams, the offensive line coach for the Cardinals, is not there anymore. It's now Justin Fry. And I spoke with Will Hernandez in New Orleans during the Super Bowl, and I had a second to interview him. Seems like he loves Justin Fry. The knee looked healthy then. However, he might have just been saying that to get a job as well. You can't knock that out of the equation. The Cardinals need more depth at the offensive line position. I've already mentioned I don't believe in Jonah Williams. What if you lose Evan Brown and or Isaiah Adams? It'd be nice to know you can stick Will Hernandez into that fold. He knows the offense. It just makes too much sense to not extend a contract offer to Will Hernandez. You don't have to start him unless he won't sign with you, unless you're going to make him a starter, although I don't know where Will Hernandez can command any starting jobs. I don't think that that's necessarily him. So if the Cardinals feel the need to add depth to that offensive line, to know that if someone goes down for 6 weeks, you got a serviceable guy to step into the fold, it just makes way too much sense. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. He's someone that's going to be behind the starting left guard, and I'm sure he could play right guard too if he needed to. He adds good depth. He knows the playbook. I know the players really like him. I've spoken to him before. Seems like a good locker room guy. It makes way too much sense. It makes way too much sense to bring Will Hernandez back. At that point, you're just talking about not having him here for God knows what reason. It's got to be because he's someone that isn't interested in not starting. That's the only reason why you wouldn't bring him back. Because he knows the playbook. He would be a starting left guard or a backup guard here. The players like him. I just wanted to squeeze that in. It makes way too much sense. And on an offensive line that I think is going to have trouble at the right tackle position in Jordan Williams, what I don't want to do is compound those problems if Isaiah Adams or Evan Brown gets hurt. It'd be nice to know that I can slide Will Hernandez into that fold, and the Cardinals would be just fine doing so as well. So it makes too much sense. There's not much to say about Will Hernandez, but I don't understand why the Cardinals haven't already went after him. Unless maybe it ended poorly, and I highly doubt it did. Sometimes I think Monty Austinfort just believes in his system a little too much, or he doesn't like guys that get injured. And Will Hernandez now has missed time, and that's not really been a Monty Austinfort thing. It would really suck to see Will Hernandez go to one of the NFC West rivals and see him perform well with those teams when you could have added depth and kept that player away from him.